Our next guest is our biggest to date. He is a 7-time NHL All-Star, a Stanley Cup champion, as well as being a gold medal winner for Team Canada in the Canada Cup and the Olympics. He averaged over a point a game in a 1,000 plus NHL regular season games, many of them with a C on his chest as captain. Fans of these shores will remember him leading the Elite League and scoring, the Belfast Giants running away with the league title, whilst adding yet another all-star name to his list. It's none other than a legend. It is Theo Fleury. Thanks for joining the 4,000 and Counting podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Love talking about
get breath in now.
My time in Belfast. It was an incredible experience, So
should we just dive right into Belfast? Normally we go back to front, but let's front to back. Why not? Let's talk about coming over to Belfast. Who got you here? What made you come? And
why did you come?
Why? I was actually playing in a charity golf tournament for a charity called 1835 House. They're a recovery center. And the guy that invited me, I had known him a little bit. And he said, I just bought a share in the Belfast Giants. And I was like, was that rugby or what? What is it? And he said, no, it's a hockey team that plays in the British Elite League. So we started playing golf, and he said to me, what are you doing this winter? I said, I'm doing fuck all. And he said, would you be interested in come play for the team? And I was like, I don't know. And so my girlfriend at the time, she was working as a dental assistant, and I called her on her lunch break, and I said, what do you think about spending the winter in Belfast? And she's like, where's that? I said, Ireland. She said, yeah, that'd be fun. So that's how that all came about. And I actually showed up. I don't even know how many games I had already played. Maybe 10 games already. I told the guy I couldn't be in Belfast till October. And so I showed up, I think it was 10 games into the season, and and away we went, and was an unbelievable experience.
Veteran move, training camp right there.
Well, and that's the funny thing. Here's the funny thing, is I don't think I'd played a hockey game in a year. Hadn't had my skates on in a year, and my first game was against Edinburgh.
That was a hell of a debut. Was it 7 points? You dusted up that tough guy as well.
Yeah. But I was like, my ideal playing weight in the NHL, I think, was about 170 pounds. And when I showed up to Belfast, I was 225 pounds. And I hadn't played a game in, a long time.
Obviously, without thinking about that, what was your very first impression of Belfast and the league and Elite League hockey, taking into account that you're saying to me you came in 50 pounds overweight, hadn't played in over a year, and were the best player in the whole country? So what was your first impressions of that first game?
I came with a very kind of open mind, and I'd played in Finland, in Tampere in 94 lockout. And I spent a month there and had an absolute time of my life. It was an incredible experience. And I early on in my hockey career, because I was so short and so small, a lot of people, were saying, you could go to Europe and, have an amazing career, playing in the Swiss league or the German league or whatever it was. And so I always wanted to, actually play a full season over anywhere. And, this opportunity came up. I was incredibly impressed with the Giants organization. The rink was beautiful,
and Banana Lands as well.
Yeah.
They go after it in Belfast.
Yeah, it was incredible. Like the story behind the Giants about, the Protestants and the Catholics actually meeting in a facility where they couldn't wear their own colors, and the Belfast Giants colors were sort of a mixture of, both sides colors, and yeah, and then being what 100 meters from where they built the Titanic, it was like, there was all this cool sort of stuff. And when I stepped on the ice for that first game, the fans went crazy. The building was sold out, and it was incredible. It was so much fun. And to be honest with you, I was completely shocked that I got 7 points that night, because like I said, I hadn't played a game in a long time, and
it was Edinburgh though, man. Everyone this side of the pond knows you're not allowed to brag for getting 7 points against Edinburgh. It's always point night.
It was point night for sure.
Oh, point night. How many games did it actually take you to start feeling like, okay, I've got my hand? Obviously, you got 7 points, but I've got my hands, I've got my legs. I feel good. I feel fit.
Well, do you guys know who Gary Roberts is?
Yep.
So he was always a fitness guy, right? And he was always in great shape and all that stuff. And he used to get mad at me all the time because I never fucking worked out ever, right? I hated working out. And he said, "You're the only guy I know who can show up at training camp, do one lap around the rink and be in shape." That's just how I was, how I was made up. And so the arena was always my happy place, right? When I stepped on the ice, I didn't have to think, and I absolutely enjoyed every time I got to play and compete. That was my happy place. And anybody who's familiar with my story about my off ice stuff, it didn't matter what was going on in my life, as soon as I got to the rink, put on that gear, stepped on the ice, it was magic. It was meant to be. And like I said, I love to compete. I hated to lose. And that was one of the things that I'm really proud of, the fact that when I got to Belfast, that I was looked to as a leader. We had 6 British kids on our team that were young guys that, I wanted to teach them, what it meant to be a professional athlete, how you prepare, how you compete, all that kind of stuff. And so, I brought a certain kind of leadership I don't think the organization had experienced up until that point. And, there's a couple famous stories of me fucking losing my shit in the dressing room when the team wasn't performing well. And I remember those 6 British guys fucking having to change their diapers after I was finished having my snap show, throwing fucking Gatorade jugs around the room and shit and stuff. But I think they couldn't believe how much I cared about winning and how important it was, that no matter, I remember, who was it? Some tough guy from Newcastle came up to me and he said, "You're playing in the 15th best league in the world. Like, you got to fucking calm down." And I said, "No, I'm here to fucking, I'm here to win." I said, "I'm here to win," and that's,
do you know what? That's refreshing to hear, and it's testament, because there's so many, obviously not even players of your caliber, but players from, say, AHL, some that have had some NHL games, maybe played high in Europe. They'll come here towards the end of the career, they'll coast about, they'll live on the laurels, they'll pick up a paycheck, maybe get the masters out of it, and maybe live off of their reputation and just come in and coast. But to hear that somebody of your stature came in and was like that, I bet a lot of people learn from that. Like you're saying, those young British guys, probably like Mark Morrison, Graham Walton. I'm sure they picked up a lot of stuff from you and the attitude that you had, especially at the end of your career.
Well, and they, in the dressing room, they had all those guys sitting with me. I sat beside them in the dressing room, and I'll never, the first night I knew that I was going to have a bullseye on my chest the whole entire year. And I said, we got to put a stop to that right away. So, oh shit, what the hell was his name? The big, tall defenseman, British kid.
Lee Jameson.
One of my favorite people in the world, but also hands down like one of the dumbest people I've ever met.
So I said to him, who's the toughest guy in the league? And he said, that Aduya guy that plays. I said, okay, I'm going to fucking put a stop to this the first game. And so, and like I said, I was 225 pounds. So I was like a boat anchor on the ice, right?
Like a wombat.
Yeah. And so, what was it? In the second period, I had the puck on the boards, and he came over and he threw an elbow and caught me pretty good. And so I went after him and dropped my gloves. We fucking squared off. I grabbed him, and I just gave him a quick yank, and I knocked him off balance, and I beat the fucking living shit out of him. It was awesome. I even surprised myself, but and then I told, what's his name? The Wayne Gretzky of British ice hockey.
Tony Hand.
I said, I'm coming after you, and I'm going to beat the shit out of you. I go, you tell that fucking guy that if he comes near me, I'm going to come after you and beat the shit out of you. Oh, no, don't do that.
To be fair, Tony Hand is low key fucking tough.
Yeah,
he's got
undercover.
He's got arms like tree trunks.
Oh, it would have been a hell of a fight then.
Yeah. Yep.
I wanted to ask you, obviously, when you were here, we saw the Coventry Blaze fans and other Elite League fans. I thought personally being a bit fucking idiotic and more like soccer fans, but what was that kind of experience like? Because you don't have fans like that in the NHL. Like,
oh yeah, we do.
Doing some stuff that those guys were doing, waving Coke packets around in the crowd.
Beers to the penalty box.
Yeah, what was your
when I played for the Rangers and we played against the Islanders, it was our biggest rival. The whole entire fan base would yell "crackhead" all the time. I got it everywhere I went.
And then got a hattie, eh?
Yeah, exactly.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah. I think the greatest compliment you can be paid as an athlete is when somebody comes up to you and say, I fucking hated you as a player. I think it's the greatest compliment you can ever receive from, not only guys you played against, but also, the fans that you performed in front of, and hockey is entertainment. I'm an entertainer, right? If I'm not hated, then I'm not doing my job. And so, obviously, playing in those buildings was, it wasn't any different. Wasn't anything I hadn't, experienced before. Like when I was playing junior, our biggest rival was 45 minutes up the road, and I needed a police escort out of the rink every night after every game because the fans were waiting beside the bus, wanting to beat the shit out of me. So
was that in Moose Jaw?
Yeah.
Or St. James Canadians?
No, it was Moose Jaw. And so, I was always that guy that loved to, but I always say this all the time, and this is a funny story too. So we were playing in Washington one time, and I was playing for the Rangers, and there was a fan sitting right beside our bench, and the whole entire night he was just being an asshole. And so at the end of the game, I think I scored a couple of goals and, was a star. And as I was going off the ice, he leaned over the glass and I reached back and I got his jersey, and I pulled him off the railing, and I dragged him down the hall. Towards our dressing room, and I've never seen a guy that fucking terrified in his life. And I didn't do anything to him other than I proved my point of fucking scaring the shit out of him. And yeah, it was hilarious.
Oh, fans always have big balls when there's a barrier between them. It's like the Ty Domi fight in the penalty box. The guy dumps his beer over his head, deer in headlights after that. Like tried suing the guy.
Or when Rob Ray, remember, in Quebec?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, he hit that guy with about 40.
40 unanswered.
We obviously love a tough guy on this show, and somebody that doesn't get talked about a lot as a tough guy, but you played with in New York. What was it like playing with big Sandy McCarty? Because there's a fantastic picture of you two guys standing together. It's like the ultimate little and large. He's right behind you. He's just fucking big, scary looking man.
Well, he is to this day my favorite teammate I've ever had. My last year in New York, it was Sandy that we roomed together on the road, and he really looked after me that year, kept me sober, and we spent a lot of time. We played together in Calgary too, as well. But he's a solid guy, and he's fucking really, really tough and scary. I seen him knock out Probert at Joe Louis Arena one night. So he was, but he's like every tough guy, just a teddy bear off the ice, nicest guy you'll ever want to meet and hang out with. And I have a lot of time, and I have a lot of respect for Sandy, for sure. And he had great hands. Like he had great hands. I seen him score some breakaway goals that were like, holy shit, that guy looks like a 50 goal scorer.
Sorry, just a little gap there. What was it actually like skating out onto Madison Square Garden? You said as a kind of away player, everyone fucking hates you, but you skate out for the first time as a Ranger. Was it kind of the Belfast thing and they introduce you and the place just goes banana lands?
Yeah. Well, I played for two original six teams, the Rangers and the Blackhawks, who probably have the two best jerseys in all of hockey, and Madison Square Garden, when you walk out onto the ice, you see all of the people that have performed at Madison Square Garden, like fucking Rolling Stones, and, Muhammad Ali fought at Madison Square Garden, so, it's like the Mecca of sports palaces, in the world. And, the rink's on the 5th floor of the building, right? You actually have to get in an elevator to go up to the top. And we all kinds of celebrities used to hang around. I got to be really good friends with Christopher Reeve, who was a big New York Ranger fan, and he used to come in the dressing room after every game, and I got a chance to get to know him and talk to him and all that stuff. So it was kind of neat to be a part of that. We shared a room with the New York Knicks as well, which was kind of cool. But I'll never forget driving in to my first exhibition game as a New York Ranger. I was driving in on the Hudson Parkway, just sort of on the outskirts of New York City. And I looked up, and there was like a massive billboard, and I was on this billboard, they were advertising ticket sales or whatever it was. And I was just like, holy fuck, are you ready for this shit? Because this is, it doesn't get any bigger than playing in New York. And, every game was it was like an event. It was incredible. And I'll tell you a great story. So one morning skate, I got to the rink early, so I got dressed, and I wanted to work on some shooting and shit before practice. And So I was the first guy on the ice, and I was skating around, just getting warmed up. And I looked on the glass, and I was like, fuck, I know that person. So I did another lap, and I was like, holy fuck, that's Cyndi Lauper. And so I went off the ice, and I said to her, I said, are you Cyndi Lauper? And she's like, yeah, I'm Cyndi Lauper. And I'm like, what the hell are you doing at a morning skate? And she goes, well, these are my two boys, and they play hockey. And I was like, wow, how cool is that? So it was kind of neat to meet her. And she was fantastic, just a sweetheart and super nice. So it was a cool experience.
It's it's obviously well documented that throughout it's a massive pivot here in the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
But it's obviously well documented through your career. You battled drugs and alcohol. Did moving to New York exacerbate that? And because it's a hell of a city.
especially when they give you $30 million and sort of just go, there you go, have fun, enjoy yourself. So, it was a completely different experience, because I played in Calgary for the majority of my career, and we only have just over 1 million people that live in Calgary, and so most of the time we spent the majority of our time together in Calgary, right? Our families were together, our kids were together, we were always hanging out together. And when I got to New York, it was completely different. Half the guys lived in the city, half the guys lived out in the suburbs. So, it was hard to, get that chemistry. But New York was a bad place for me. I tried to take a bite out of the Big Apple, and it took a big bite out of me, and the bars never closed. It was 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And, 14 million people live in Manhattan. So, I could hide, and, it was crazy. It was.
Yeah. Theo, you said that Sandy looked after you, and you sort of lent on him when you were trying to stay sober. At that time in the NHL, was that the only support mechanism that you had directly, or do you feel like the organisation would have done enough for you if you went to them and asked for help?
Yeah, there's no question that, I had lots of conversations with Glenn Sather about, what was happening, and, he offered help, but I wasn't ready for the help, and, I had periods of sobriety while I was in New York, periods. Especially the Olympic year, I think I was sober for 14 months that year. Like, I made it the whole entire year being sober, because I wanted to, be a part of the Olympic team and whatnot. So that was kind of the motivation for that. But, as soon as that was finished, and I always say to people, I should have retired the day after we won the gold medal, because at that point, I'd accomplished pretty much everything that I could have accomplished in the sport at that time. I won a World Junior, a Turner Cup, Stanley Cup, Canada Cup, Olympic gold medal, and I could have retired and, been quite content.
You hadn't won the
and
Elite League
happy
by then, though.
Yeah, he's waiting for the big EIHL title.
I was.
Yeah. First All-Star team, champion.
It's actually one of the nicest rings I have is the one from Belfast.
Really?
They treat you right there.
Yeah.
Well, just
I love the logo. I love the logo.
That's awesome,
and the story behind it, because I got sober in Belfast, of all places. That's where I got sober.
I don't think anybody's sober in Belfast, Steve.
Yeah,
so
I
that's
know.
a feat. That's a feat.
I was literally about to say that.
History.
I'm pretty sure Buckfast runs through the rivers over there.
Yes, exactly. Guinness. But you know what? I really fell in love with the north coast of Ireland because on Sundays, my ex-wife now, we would jump in the car and we'd drive out to the Giants Causeway and we would just walk for hours and hours and hours on end and just enjoy the beauty of the north coast. And those days definitely brought a lot of perspective. They brought a lot of clarity and whatnot. So that's why I'll never forget my time in Belfast. I really won't, because it was a big turning point in my life. And I remember standing in front of the team the very first day I arrived, and I said to the guys, I said, not only am I here to play hockey for you guys, but more importantly, I'm here because I'm newly sober. And I said, please don't offer me a drink. Please don't ask me to go out after games and all that. And, the guys were really respectful of the fact that I was in that place. And from Ed Courtney to Curtis Huppy and, all those guys, Todd Kelman, it was awesome to, they were great hockey players, but they were even better people. And I think that's always been my experience with playing on championship teams, that the quality of people is actually more important than what we actually do on the ice. And, it was a really close group of guys, super awesome dudes. And that in itself created, a tremendous amount of success that we had throughout the year.
I played with Hopper. He was a beauty.
Yeah, he's a beauty.
And do you know what? It sucked because the year I played with him, he got really badly injured and he came back, and then he got injured the first week he came back, and then he tried to come back for the playoffs and he got injured. But he hadn't played in 11 games, and he gets a breakaway when he gets a one shift in the last period to just bar down. Right, the guy just come in absolute sniper.
I know.
It really hurt. It really hurt our team that year, the fact that he got injured, because he was a big part of it.
But he was a great goal scorer, and I loved playing with Ed Courtney too. Smart player, wasn't the fastest guy, but he was super intelligent, and it was a great line. I loved playing with those guys. And Hoppy, you just had to get him the puck because he could shoot the puck so well, and he was kind of a natural goal scorer. And I remember the first game, we're on the power play, and I had the puck on the half boards, and Huppy's standing beside me. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? I go, I have fucking 630 assists in the NHL. What the fuck are you doing standing beside me? I said, go get open. I'll get you the puck.
He got a lot of goals that year as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, did he get 40? I think he might have got 40 that year, close to 40. So
I want to talk about another underrated player, but I'm going to take you back to New York, and he was one of my favorite players growing up as a kid, is Adam Graves. Can you just explain to the British public, who are probably not so aware, that what a player that guy was and how tough he was, and just he come to play every night?
Yeah. I've played with lots of really quality people, but he's like right at the very top of that list. We won a World Junior together.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was very familiar with Adam. And then I played against him when he was in Edmonton with the Oilers, and a guy that came to compete every night. He was tough. He could score goals. He was the ultimate team guy. And like I said, even a better person than he was a hockey player. And so quality human being. And, he was a big part of that Ranger team that won the cup in '94 too. So yeah, loved. And I played on a line with him the first year I was in New York. Him and Mike York I played with, and we had a lot of success.
Just one other quick fanboy question from me, because Brian Leach, I was never really a guy that watched D-men growing up as much.
Yeah.
I was a forward. I like to watch Pavel Bure. I like to watch the scorers, but Brian Leach, for me, there was just something about him. I used his curve. I used the Eastern Brian Leach blades. What was it like having him just dishing you the puck?
He was a phenomenal player. He was one of those defensemen that would lead the rush and then be the first guy back. That's how great of a skater he was, you know. And I actually played. I played on the point on the power play. I played defense on the power play in New York, and he was my defense partner. And a lot of times when we were down in games, the coach would throw me on the back end with him, and I love playing with him. He was just, and he was, you know, he's another one of those, you know, quality guys, really great guys to be around, you know, love to laugh and, you know, but yeah, he was an unbelievable player. He was like a forward. He was like, you know, before like Scott Niedermayer and these guys started showing up, he was like, you know, Bobby Orr was back in the day, you know, that offensive defenseman that had all the skills and the ability and the talent. You know, it was fun. It was fun to play with him, and he could really, really pass the puck too. And, you know, he would put you in a position where you were in full stride when you got the puck. And, you know, when I had a full head of steam going, you know, look out, defensemen were shaking in their boots.
I'm conscious we're going to end up diving down rabbit holes all over your career and be scattering about, but I just want to take it right back to the Dub when you were playing in there. We spoke to players that played there sort of like 90s, early 90s, but going back to the sort of 80s when you were coming through, especially a player of your size, that was very much the Wild West. So going into that league, I'm guessing you've always had that attitude about you, that you were going to be feisty in people's faces, you were going to stick up for yourself. Your points spoke for themselves, but what was the Dub like over those few years that you played in it?
Barbaric. You know, my first year in the Western Hockey League, I was 5'3", 125 pounds. I played at my first year in the Western League. Yeah.
And you were still over a point a game.
Yeah. And I remember we went up to Prince Albert, and I remember standing on the goal line or the blue line when they were playing the national anthem, and I looked over across the ice, and there was Dave Manson and Ken Baumgartner were defense partners. And the very first shift of that game, I got hit by Dave Manson, and I thought I broke every single bone in my body. And I said to myself, that can never happen again. And it didn't. And what I learned, I learned to be really good with my stick. And so if you were going to hit me, you had to come, you know, through my stick or, you know, an elbow or whatever it was. And so I developed that style of play that you saw in the NHL. I developed it in junior because I knew that if I didn't, you know, push back, that I would have a really hard time being successful. And
big
for
wooden
me,
sticks then too, eh?
Oh yeah, those big thick,
you don't want to skate through too many of them.
Those big thick Titans, you know, those red Titans we used, the ones that Gretzky used back in the day. And you know, I developed that style of play, and like I said, you know, if you look at my last year's statistics, I had 235 penalty minutes, and 90 of those penalties were minor stick infractions.
I thought you were going to say 90 of them came in one game.
No, 90 of those 235 minutes and penalties were all stick infractions.
I've got the stats for the fanboys here. 65 games, 68 goals, 92 apples, 160 points, 235 PIMs. Now, you touched on your size. Now, with those points and the points previous, you had 61 goals in 66 games a season before, 43 and 73. How is it that you go all the way down the draft to number 166 in the 8th round other than your height? Because you obviously, in hindsight, you go on to be a 7-time All-Star. Calgary Flames look like the biggest fucking geniuses in the world, taking you in the 8th round.
Yeah.
How does that happen that you fall so far down?
Well, it was just size, right? You know, well, what's interesting, and it was funny because I tweeted this out at this year's draft. So the first year I was eligible for the draft, I didn't get picked, right? And then the next year, I didn't go until to the 8th round. So there was 415 guys picked before me in the draft. Okay. And I said, it's not about the number where you get selected, it's where you finished. And so I took a snapshot of the NHL all-time scoring list, and I'm 64th all-time in the history of the NHL. And I said, it's not where you start, it's where you finish. And, when I got to Calgary, my first training camp, like nobody believed that I could play in the NHL. And I knew that it was my one and only opportunity to, show what I could do. And so I turned the whole entire management staff during that training camp, I turned them from non-believers into believers. And sure enough, a year and a half later, I was carrying around the Stanley Cup in the Montreal Forum, as a member of the Calgary Flames. And so, I just wanted a chance. I just wanted an opportunity to go to a training camp and really show everybody what I could do. And I was able to do that, and then had a huge run down in Salt Lake City in the minors. I had 74 points in 40 games, and then I got called up, New Year's Eve of 1988. And like I said, 6 months later, we were carrying the Stanley Cup around the Montreal Forum. So it's unbelievable.
Before we dive down your NHL career, I'm just looking at that World Championship team where you got the gold medal. You made the All-Star team. You're on a team with people like Joe Sakic, Trevor Linden, Adam Graves, Recchi, all of these players, and you were given the letter, as you've had all the way through your career when you got to senior. But what was it like captaining your country to a gold medal at the World Junior Championships?
Yeah. It's my favorite championship I've ever won. Because
That's saying something.
Well, I think the World Junior Tournament is the greatest hockey tournament on the planet, even better than the Olympics.
I'm so excited for next week. Well, yeah, it'll be next week by the time this goes out. It's next week, Christmas Day, baby. Yeah.
And, I got to play in 2 of them. And what was awesome was, the year before we brawled the Russians at the World Junior Tournament, bench clearing brawl. We got kicked out of the tournament. And then to go back, and the tournament was right in Moscow, communist Russia. And, we went in there, and they had a line of Fedorov, McGillney, and Bure was their number one line. 3 of my
all-time favorites right there.
Yeah. And we had a checking line of Adam Graves, Mark Recchi, and Rob DeMaio was our checking line against them. They shut them down in that game, and we beat them in their own rink, in their own backyard. And what was really cool, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the 72 series when Canada played Russia for the first time.
Yeah, it was the same rink, wasn't it?
We played in the same rink that Paul Henderson scored the goal in 1972. So, it was kind of that cherry on top of the sundae that Joe Sakic was our 4th line centerman on that team. So I think we had 12 first round picks on that team. And
you've seen this year's roster. I think it's 14 forwards in the first round, 8 D-men, and both goalies and the backup. Everyone's a first rounder. It's mad.
I know.
Can I get a teaching moment here for the UK fans?
Sure.
You just touched on a check-in line. Now, obviously, to us, it's pretty self-explanatory. You have to tell the fans like how important a check-in line is when they're playing against the likes of Bure, McGillney, and Fedorov as a line.
Yeah, well, back in the day, when I played, I had to play against the other team's two best defensemen, right? So I had to play against guys like fucking Chelios and Stevens and Lindstrom and all these guys. Every game I had to play against those guys, which I loved because, it forced me to elevate my game to the next level. But, a checking line is, essential in, when we won the cup, we had Joel Otto, right? Big Joel Otto was our checker. And, he played every game against Messier when we played, or every shift against Messier when we played against the Oilers. And, he played against all the other team's best players. And so, a checking line is so important, shutting down, the other team's best offensive line. And if you shut down the other team's best offensive line, you have a pretty good chance to win, every single night. And so, that's why specialty teams are so important. Your power play has to be good. Your penalty killing has to be good, and you have to play well defensively. And what I always tell kids is, if you want more ice time, then get good at doing everything, right? Don't be packaged into sort of a one-dimensional player. And throughout my career, that was my focus. I wanted to be an all-round great player. So, because I knew if I was an all-around good player, I would get more ice time because the coach would trust me in every situation, right? And so, I killed penalties. I played on the power play. I took all the big face-offs at the end of the periods and at the end of games while we were holding leads, all that stuff. And so, it's important to be an all-round player. And that means, learn every aspect of the game. And if you learn every aspect of the game, you're going to get more ice time. It's just, the natural process of learning, to be a complete player. And there's a great story about Stevie Yzerman, who's one of the best players that ever played the game. And the Red Wings hired Scotty Bowman as their coach. And, Stevie Y was getting 150 points a year before Scotty came to be their coach. And the story goes that Scotty called Stevie in the middle of the summer and said to Stevie, I don't want you to get 150 points a year. He says, I want you to get 80 points a year, but I want you to be our best defensive player. And guess what happened? Stevie Y won 3 Stanley Cups because of it, which is kind of a good story because he became a all-round, player, killed penalties, played on the power play, took face-offs, and then, that inspired everybody else on the team to, worry about playing in your own zone, learn how to play without the puck, because when you learn how to play without the puck, you're going to get the puck more. You're going to have
How
the puck
tough was it going into those games against the Wings when they had those teams? They were just in their dominant era. Lidstrom at the back, Stevie Y, Fedorov, like Konstantin.
Yeah, it was fun. Yeah, those were fun games to play because you had to dig deeper and find more, right? Play harder, play with more passion, play with more compete, So, and it's nice to put yourself up against the best players in the game and see where you stack up.
Best players in the game, then. You obviously touched on Stevie Y being one of the best. So I'm sure you've been asked this question a million times. Who is like the ultimate, the best guy that you've either played with or definitely against?
Gretzky.
Gotta be, right?
Yep. Then Mario, close second. I think if Mario didn't get hurt, he might have surpassed Wayne. But Joe Sakic, I played against him, played with him. Unbelievable player. Stevie Y, Mark Messier, Lindros was another guy. Well, I think that our era had the most amount of superstars in the history of the game. The most amount.
It was an era.
I laugh now when guys like McDavid and Austin Matthews show up and everybody's, goo and gawing all over these guys. And I said, when I played in the league, we had 30 Connor McDavids playing.
So what was it like then? So you pitch up 1988, 89, you're saying this is an era of superstars. You had like studs on every single team, loaded legends, people that are going to be in the Hall of Fame and did go on to be in the Hall of Fame. You stroll in as a 22-year-old kid, win the playoffs, and basically if the NHL was a computer game, you completed it in your first season. Yeah. So what was that all about?
Well, I think first and foremost, you dream about playing in the NHL. And then once you get to the NHL, then you dream about winning a Stanley Cup. And, I did that in my first year. And so I don't think I really appreciated at the time the accomplishment. And obviously I do now more than ever, because I played 14 more years after we won the Stanley Cup. And, the closest I got was when I was in Colorado and we lost to Dallas in Game 7 of the conference finals. And then Dallas went on to beat Buffalo. And so
was that the Hitchcock era?
Yep. And they call it the hardest trophy in the world to win, and I know why, because we had some unbelievable teams in Calgary after we won the cup, and we should have won one more, maybe two, and we couldn't get out of the first round of the playoffs. I think my time in Calgary, I played in 4 Game 7s in the first round and lost all of them.
Whoa.
So, it's the hardest. That first series is always the hardest to win. But, one of my best attributes as an athlete was I love to compete. And that's what really set me apart from every small player that tried to make it, either before me or after me, was I competed at the highest level and I fucking hated to lose, because of my childhood experiences, I was a really fucking angry dude too, and I used that anger to intimidate, a lot of guys that I played against. And, I always say I was willing to die in order to win. And if you weren't willing to die, guess what? I could take you anywhere on the ice and do whatever I wanted to you, because I knew that you weren't willing to go to that, place. Right. And so that kind of attitude and that kind of compete level, because I needed to get room on the ice. Right. Because that's where all my skills took over, is when I had room on the ice. And if I was intimidated, I wouldn't get room on the ice. And so, that style of play, it was more psychological than anything else, right? Because guys didn't know whether I was going to kiss them or cut their eye out with the end of my stick, right? And I needed them to think that way, that I was fucking crazy. And that craziness allowed me to have room and space on the ice to do what I did best. And it was the biggest reason why I had success.
Did that craziness and stuff come from this incident in your childhood? Obviously, you talked in your first book, I believe, about the abuse, and it went on to be a huge story. You broke it. There was several other NHL guys and guys that were playing junior at the time.
Yep.
You talked about it basically, like kind of taking your innocence away and not knowing what's right and what's wrong. Can you kind of tell our listeners your experience going through that and how it was, obviously, because it no doubt led to alcoholism and gambling and things like that. They was 100% connected. So like right from the start there, and I'm not going to mention that guy's name on my podcast.
Right.
Fuck him.
Yeah. Well, I think it started in my childhood. Both my parents struggled with addiction issues. And so I grew up in a lot of chaos, a lot of violence, a lot of crazy behavior. And I discovered hockey around that time. And, the more I was at the rink, the less time I had to be at home. And so, that's why it became my happy place. And then, sort of as a phenom kid hockey player, I ran into this guy who basically said, promised me a one-way ticket to the NHL. And under his tutelage, over a 2.5-year period, he raped me 150 times over a 2.5-year period. And, I was left with a lot of shame, a lot of guilt, a lot of anger, a lot of resentment. And then, wasn't too long after that, I discovered alcohol as a coping mechanism to sort of deal with all the emotional pain and scars that were left behind from the experience with my parents and then my experience with my abuser. And from my very first sip of alcohol, I was hooked because it really helped me numb out and forget a lot of those memories that I had, as a kid. But, what we know about alcoholism is your addiction never gets better. And, mine just got worse and worse. And then I started adding street drugs to my repertoire. And
at what age, Theo?
I think I was 19 the first time I did cocaine, and it really got bad around my last year in Calgary. I started, using more cocaine on a regular basis. And then obviously when I got to New York, it was out of control. And then Chicago was, the worst of the worst. That's when I hit sort of rock bottom, was when I was in Chicago. And then, 16 years ago, I had a fully loaded pistol in my mouth, ready to pull the trigger and end my life. Not because I wanted to die, but I was completely exhausted from living in emotional pain and suffering for the majority of my life. And I tried everything on the planet to get rid of it. And, but what I realized was through that, that suicide attempt, that I didn't want to die. And I needed to make some changes, and I needed to, get honest with myself and get honest with, my fans and the people that loved me and cared about me. And, really the turning point in my life is when I wrote my autobiography and told the whole story. And what happened was, I really found the true purpose for my life. And that was to help as many people as I possibly could who had the same experience as me. And I've been doing that now for 15 years, and I work in the field of trauma, mental health, and addiction now. And it's the greatest thing I've ever done, and I always say I would trade my World Junior Stanley Cup Olympic gold medal to be able to save somebody's life. And, I've had multiple opportunities to save people's lives. And I do that on a daily basis now. And it's incredibly rewarding. And like I said, it's my purpose. And, it's the reason why I went through all that pain and suffering early on in my life, was to get to this point so that I could, fulfill and carry out, my true purpose.
You were saying that your addictions obviously spanned the whole of your NHL career, where you were playing at the very highest level. You were captain in the team, you were an assistant in the team, you were in leadership roles, and you were always one of the very best players. Like, from somebody looking outside in, they couldn't even fathom how somebody could perform at that very highest level. Now, it must be obvious to your teammates and the management that you were going through these sort of struggles. How many times through those years were people trying to intervene and bring you back? And I know you were saying you weren't ready to be helped, but there must have been episodes through there that people stand out where they've tried to come and drag you away.
Yeah. Well, when I broke into the league, it was part of the culture, right? You know, having a few beers after games was part of the culture, right? So, you know, it fit very well for sort of the place that I was in and I was at the time, and the money wasn't big, right? You know, the '89 Stanley Cup team, our whole entire salary was $7 million, right? And so as the game started to grow and the salaries started to get bigger, you know, a lot of guys, you know, didn't drink as much and didn't, you know, go out as often because, you know, the money's so big. And, you know, the average career in the NHL, I think, is less than 3 years.
It's not long.
It's not long, right? And so, you know, you want to maximize the amount of money you make in the shortest amount of time. And so, you know, we've seen a huge shift in you know, sort of the culture of how it was. But yeah, we drank a lot, you know, we drank a lot. And the guys who played before us, they drank more than us. The guys before them, they drank, you know what I mean? So it was a part of the culture. And
well, what about winning the Stanley Cup in Calgary? Come on, if there's a city to win it in, how was that in the celebrations? Obviously, you drink, like you said, you guys were drinking a lot. How was how were the cup celebrations? What did you do with your day with the cup?
Well, I drank for 21 days in a row.
How did it?
So, my day with the cup was, I was the youngest guy in the team, so I was the last guy to get it, and the season had already started.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so I basically took it home, and I had a few friends over. We took some pictures, and that night I kicked my girlfriend out of bed, and I slept with the Stanley Cup right beside me that night, right beside me. So,
I bet she wasn't even mad about it.
No, she wasn't.
You can't be mad at that one.
But to get back to your question, Jamie, yeah, there was lots of people that asked me or reached out and, you know, knew that I was going down the wrong road and down the wrong path. And, but like I said, I wasn't ready, right? I wasn't ready to make the commitment. I wasn't ready to deal with what I needed to deal with at that time, you know, but.
Do you have players reach out to you now as kind of
lots of guys?
Through it?
Lots of guys I work with now that are ex-players. That
do they ask to maybe stay anonymous, or do they come to you, kind of like conversation we're having now, and just want to talk? And
everything I do is anonymous. Everything I do is anonymous. You know, so people reach out. You know, I work with them, and I never, you know, never mention their names or whatever. You know, it's why they call it Alcoholics Anonymous, right? Yeah. I am just Theo F in the rooms. So,
well, you're obviously a massive positive influence on people's lives now. Who was the biggest positive influence on your life, kind of growing up and coming through the NHL and, you know, dealing with your own issues?
Well, I was very lucky as a kid. I grew up in a really small town, small community where we had 3 amazing coaches. Growing up, I played on the same team with the same guys for like first 9 years of minor hockey. And, you know, those people instilled some pretty incredible morals, you know, that I still hold near and dear to my heart today. And you know, they raised me because my parents just weren't capable. You know, they were struggling with their own stuff. And so, you know, this community that I grew up in, they looked after me, they raised me, they made sure I was fed, made sure I had warm clothes and shoes and you name it and all that stuff. And so I would say without those people early on in my life, I don't think that, you know, I would have, first of all, I wouldn't have made it. And then secondly, I don't know how my life would have turned out if I didn't have, you know, those incredible people around me when I was small and looking for guidance and help. along the way. So, and not only that, we had a lot of success. That's where I learned how to win. That's where I learned about the importance of winning when I was young, right? And I got the blueprint for success early on in my life, and that really carried through. And it was funny. I read a book by a guy named Malcolm Gladwell, and he talks about 10,000 hours. And I remember reading that chapter in the book, and then sort of reflecting on my childhood, and from the time I was 5 when I started playing until I was 15 when I left to pursue my dream of being a professional hockey player. I put in 10,000 hours of practice, because when I wasn't at school, I was at the rink, working on my skills and working on skating, shooting, passing, over and over and over again. And so, what I did was I trained myself to react, because in our sport, if you got to think about where you're supposed to be on the ice,
It's too late.
The puck moves faster, than we can skate or think. And so, in those 10,000 hours, I basically, trained myself to react. And so when I stepped on the ice, I never had to think, I was in my element.
So for those listening, wondering about that book, it was Malcolm Gladwell, did you say?
Yeah.
Yeah, I always forget the author, but
Called The Outliers.
10,000 hours is the number of hours or minimum number of hours that you need to put in for something to become second nature and for you to be an elite level at it. So whether that's piano, violin, chess, hockey, it doesn't matter. It's 10,000 hours.
Yep.
It's a great book. Highly recommend reading it.
Yeah. It was awesome when I read it. I was like, oh, okay, that explains it right there. So
explains why I never made it.
I'm currently working on trying to play 10,000 hours of fucking golf right now. That's my ambition. Like, if I'm gonna put 10,000 hours into anything in the next, it's definitely gonna be my golf game.
Well,
you a golfer, Theo? I heard you.
That's my obsession, is golf.
Oh,
I played 140 rounds of golf this summer.
Nice.
Yeah,
That's
I'm a scratch golfer. So
Maybe.
Of course you're a scratch golfer. You got 1,000 points. Headshot. And eyes off the chart.
I love the sport. Absolutely love the sport. And to me, it's, I have lots of mental health issues, and so golf is like meditation for me. I'm outside. Lots of vitamin D, and the sole purpose of golf is try to hit the ball in the middle of the club face every single time, which is very, very hard to do. And so, that takes the focus away from, whatever's going on outside of my life. And I can really just focus in on, trying to accomplish, the same swing, the same, all that stuff. So I love it. Love it.
Love what you said.
We have lots of incredible, amazing golf courses here, because we live 45 minutes from the Rocky Mountains and have some of the most beautiful courses on the planet, not too far away from us. So love it.
I love what you said there about like taking away the mental health. So today my playing partner, he's a friend of mine, and his wife, again, a friend of mine, she's going through a cancer battle. So today we're on like the third hole, we're shooting the shit, and he just turns around and goes, this is fucking nice. This is what I needed. Like, just needed to be outside, some fresh air. And it was a kind of nice moment for us there today. Like, we stood there and I was just like, mate, like, anytime you need to do this. And it does, it's just a walk. You talk to one of your buddies. Yeah. And you get to try, like you said, try and hit the ball in the middle of the club, which happens every now and again.
Exactly, for sure. So yeah, I'm sorry to hear about that. That's
she's a warrior, man. I'm 100% this girl's got this.
That's awesome.
She's my girl, man. She's tough as nails.
It's good stuff.
Theo, so you had 11 seasons in Calgary, which is a long stretch in anybody's imagination. Even the current NHL, a lot of players bounce about, they're traded, they moved along. When it came to that season, when you got traded, did you see it coming?
Yeah, I sort of saw it coming because I knew that we were a small market team, and they were paying us in US dollars at that time too. So and the Canadian dollar was really bad at that time. And yeah, I knew there was a good possibility that could happen. There was tons of rumors flying around, that I was going to end up in all these different places, different scenarios. And then the day I got traded and knew that I was going to Colorado, man, I was excited because I was basically going to an all-star team, So, and then I got to play with Joe Sakic and Milan Hajduk. Two pretty good
partnership.
Yeah. So got to play with Patrick Waugh, Claude Lemieux, Valerie
Peter Forsberg.
Peter Forsberg. Yeah.
Can you just explain to the people how strong in his skates Peter Forsberg was?
Scary dude. He was. The thing about Peter Forsberg was he played the game at his own pace. When he got the puck, the game just sort of slowed down. And you'll notice that the great players in the game, when they get the puck, they play at their own speed. And they slow the game down. Gretzky was the best I had ever seen at that. When he got the puck, the game he was unbelievable. Unbelievable how he dictated the pace of the game and he played it at the pace he wanted to play the game at. And then if he needed to turn it up, he could turn it up, and he could turn on a dime. And he was so good behind the net too. It was like we designed game plans around him.
How do you think he would be now with all this extra space?
My God, it would be ridiculous.
Crazy.
Yeah, he'd get 250 points. Yeah, Mario was everybody's as good as Gretz too. Yeah.
What about Yaga?
Just a beast. He's so strong. So strong. He had that big wide ass.
He's still going, man. Like
I know.
It's insane.
48 years old, still playing. That's awesome.
Well, he used
I don't even put on my skates anymore. So for him to be playing at 48 professionally, that's pretty good.
He's not much younger than you, eh?
No.
That's just mad. He used to, in Florida, he used to put on his weights vest and just ankle weights and just skate laps. There were stories of him being in the team gym at 3 a.m. just training.
I know. You would never see me in a gym at 3 a.m.
What is it your brother says?
Never seen a push-up score a goal.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
that was the thing about me. I hated practice and I hated working out, but I just loved to play. I love to compete. So
any games that really stand out to be like obviously you played so many, you've won so many things. What are like the most? Surely the Olympic gold or the Canada Cup. Like we haven't touched on either of those really. That Olympic gold team was disgusting. It wasn't even fair. Like it was act.
Well, look up the stats of Joe Newdike, Brendan Shanahan, and Theo Fleury. That was the fourth line on Team Canada. Look up those stats. And we were the fourth line. 1,500 goals, 3,000 points. Just stupid. So then you have Mario, Sakic, Iginla, Yzerman, Lemieux, Lindros, Owen Nolan. Crazy.
Literally like an all-star team. You've even got Paul Correa on there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the goalies, Brodeur, Joseph, and Eddie Belfour.
Yeah, not bad. So yeah, it was one of the most incredible experiences of my life.
What about the Canada Cup? Because that's a kind of different format. Back in 92, was it?
91. Yep.
91.
Yeah, that was a great experience too.
You're a young guy then.
I was a pup. Yep. I just come off my one and only 50-goal season when I made that team. So I played with Messier and Luc Robitaille.
Lucky Luke.
Yep.
I want
There's
to
a
touch
guy.
on your time with New York. Rangers are my NHL team, and they've been to MSG. And you're saying going out there and hearing the crowd at MSG cheering your name. I've seen some of the videos. The place is electric in it. It's an unbelievable place. Now, was there a bit of history between you and Chelios? Because there's very limited videos of fights.
Yeah.
But there's one game at the end of the 98-99 season where you cold clocked him in front of the net. And then in 2001, it seemed like a bit of retribution when he jumped you in the corner and the Rangers scored. So is there a story behind that?
Yeah, we're just two very highly competitive guys that hated to lose, right? So, and then we would go out and drink beer after the game. So, together.
That's what, no matter what level it is, we spoke about it anyway. This is what a lot of hockey fans don't understand. Because of the competitiveness on the ice, and if you're willing to play that role, and you're willing to run through a wall for your team, and you're willing to fight your best mate, who may well be on the other side of the team, that straight after that fight, if you both kicked out the game, that you would quite happily stand and have a beer with each other and laugh about it. It is alien to somebody on the street.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it's just the nature of the game and the nature of the sport, that there's a certain amount of respect that you have for somebody that plays that style of game, right? And to be honest with you, the Chris Chelioses and the Nicholas Lindströms and the Scott Stevens made me better, right?
Yeah.
Because if I didn't dig deep and find that extra gear or that extra ounce of competitiveness, I would have never had the success that I had. And those guys, I loved playing against Wayne Gretzky. I loved putting myself up against Wayne Gretzky. Loved putting myself up against Mario. Loved playing against Joe Sakic, and like I said earlier on in the conversation, those guys, every time they see me, they say, I fucking hated playing against you. And to me, that's the greatest compliment that you can be ever paid as an athlete, is that you were not fun to play against, which meant they too knew that they had to elevate their game too if they were playing against me. And that's the ultimate in respect and all those things. And so,
awesome. There's one video at MSG, and it's one that stood out for me where they were cheering your name. But I just want to ask you what the fuck was going through your head when there was a skirmish in the corner, sorry, and you come fucking in like a 10-pin fucking bowling ball and attack at Eric Cairns.
Yeah. Yeah, it was, hey, my teammates were in a scuffle, man. I had to get in there, right? So
yeah, but from the video as well, there was multiple players around there that you could have grabbed, but you actually dived yourself round the referee to get to Eric Cairns.
Yeah,
I was
of
like,
course. The bigger they are, the harder they fall, right? So,
he came over here and just beat the fucking wheels off of everybody, didn't he, boys? He just
great savage. That video of him in Coventry.
Was you with London then, Mandy? Like, was that then?
I mean, I was stick boy, but
yeah, that's what I mean. Like, was that then?
No, that was it was that season, I think. Or
maybe the season before. He just came over and was just. There was a lot of NHL heavies because it was a lockout.
Yeah,
that team that year was straight savage though.
Oh yeah,
Ken, Jason Robinson, Scott Nicol, Jeremy Cornish,
Maxwell. They just had a team full.
Yeah, Dennis Maxwell.
The video I thought Mac was going to bring up was MSG going, man. What was this where you came back and played an exhibition game? You took a penalty shot. What was that about? Because I saw the video popped up this week, and it was like you made a comeback for just what was it, a one-off?
No. So I got kicked out of the NHL in 2003.
Yeah.
Okay. So they suspended me, lifetime suspension. And I was 41 years old at the time. And I didn't want to retire as a suspended player. So I went through the process of being reinstated, because I knew if I had remained suspended, I probably wouldn't have the opportunity to get into the Hockey Hall of Fame if I was a suspended player. So I went through the process of getting reinstated. So I was 235 pounds at the time. And I spent 9 months training, got myself in shape, got myself reinstated, and then I got invited to the Calgary Flames training camp. And my first game, exhibition game, we played against the Islanders at home, and the game went into a shootout, and I scored the winner in the shootout after being out of the game for 6 years. I lost 45 pounds. Out of the 52 guys that came to training camp, kids that were half my age, I finished 11th in the fitness testing at training camp, and played 4 exhibition games, had 4 points in 4 exhibition games, and got cut. So.
Was you planning on going for it? Right.
Yeah, I would have loved to played one more season, but what happened, my book came out 3 weeks after my comeback, and so it was meant to be.
Because what was it like all of a sudden becoming this author? Because it blew up. I mean, that's actually what I got my dad for Christmas that year. That was one of the things he wanted. He wanted to read your book, and I was like, yeah, why not? Let's do it. And he loved it. It must have been huge for you.
Yeah, the book changed my life. It changed my life because, I was, I had so many secrets and people had so many questions, right? How does this NHL superstar all of a sudden just disappear? Right? That's what happened. I disappeared. I had 1 year left on my contract with the Chicago Blackhawks. It was going to pay me $4.5 million, and I didn't show up at training camp. Didn't call the Blackhawks, tell them I was not coming back. Didn't call my agent. I just disappeared. And then,
Steve, for somebody who's played that long and at such a high level, like to just drop off, for anybody that's not read your book and doesn't know any about your backstory, suddenly drop off the edge of a cliff and be left with nothing and be left in a black hole. Where did you see yourself at that point? That must have been your lowest ebb, if anything.
Yeah. Well, and shortly after that, the suicide attempt happened, and then and then shortly after that, I got sober. I've been sober 15 years now, and
well done, man. That's fucking legit.
Yeah. Thanks. I just celebrated 5,555 days of sobriety last 2 weeks.
I think, did you tweet that? Or
yeah, I tweeted it out. I tweeted it out. And then shortly after that, I started writing the book, and then I've been working in the field of trauma, mental health, and addiction now for 15 years. So, everything.
Did you feel a massive release, like as you were typing those words or writing those words? Was it just like a huge weight leaving your body?
Yeah, it was very cathartic, And then I sing in a country band too.
I fucking love country music.
Yep. Yeah. You got to download my album. It's on iTunes.
What's the name of the band?
Theo Fleury and the Death Valley Rebels.
Check it out.
We're kind of a rockabilly country band, so love it.
How often are you boys jamming? Are you every week? Like,
we haven't done much since COVID happened, but before that, we usually play 4 or 5 shows a year.
Okay.
We do lots of writing though. We do lots of. I like the writing process. I enjoy writing songs, so that's cathartic too. So, yeah.
What do you guys sing about?
It's all about recovery.
Okay.
Yeah. The album is basically my book in music. So it's kind of cool.
You're saying that your life's taken up now by helping other people, and you're saying that's your best achievement. And it seems as though everything in your life now is geared towards that. You're saying that your band's about recovery. I've listened to your podcast. You speak to lots of different people about dealing with trauma in their past. Is every aspect of your life keeping you on track? Is that what you feel you need to fill your life with, things that keep you on track and keep you well as a person?
Yeah. I'm always looking for healing, right? I'm always looking for different ways to heal, right? I just joined a company where we have a brain synchronization app where it's called MMS Mobile Wellness is the name of the app. And basically it's sound therapy. And what it does is it helps rearrange your brain basically by listening to these special tracks that have been chosen. And we've had a lot of success early on. It's a kind of a startup company, and everybody I've sent the app to calls me back almost immediately and says, "What the fuck is this thing that I'm using?" And I'll tell you a funny story. So there's a kid that's playing in I think it's the Swiss League. Through a friend of a friend, somebody sent him this app, and he was going through a slump, and he started using the sound therapy for a couple of days. And the next night he went out and had a goal and assist and had his best game ever. So it was great feedback to know that the app is working. And so, so I'm always, I spend the majority of my day on the phone or on Zoom, either coaching somebody or helping them through a problem, or, 3 weeks ago, I had 10 people email me in 1 week that were all suicidal. And so I spent 2 weeks, working with these 10 people to get them out of that space they were in. And so all 10 are live today, and, they have some hope, and they have a new outlook on life and all of that. So it's incredibly rewarding, Do
you think the pandemic is fed into this? Have you seen more of an uptake for helping your services? Yeah.
Huge. I've never been more busy. Yeah. Well, when you isolate people and when you can't be with your mates, and it's hard on people, right? And a lot of people aren't working. A lot of people don't have any normalcy to their life. There's a lot of unknown circumstances, which causes people to have anxiety, right? We don't know where this is all headed. We don't know where it's all going. And, it's a crazy time to be alive.
What's your plans moving forward then? What other than the stuff that you've mentioned to us, have you got anything in the pipeline that you want to put out there and let everybody know about?
Well, I have an online program. It's called Trauma Transformation. I work with I work with people in a group setting online. And you go to my website, theofleury.life, to get more information. I've learned so much in the last 15 years, and sort of have a secret formula to help people get on the right track and take a look at healing modalities for the first time in their life, and I believe that mental illness is the biggest epidemic on the planet. It's even bigger than COVID. And so, we've put a program together that helps you work through your problems step by step. I think there's 4 different modules where we sort of unpack all of your history, and we teach people how to tell their stories to other people, that kind of stuff. And it's been hugely successful. And but I'm getting ready for when the pandemic's over, because I know that mental illness will be at the forefront, and I'm going to be extremely busy. I do 80 speaking engagements every year, 80 speaking engagements. So
Is that all over the world, or is it just in North America? Or?
It's North America mostly Canada. But yeah, we're getting ready to deal with when the pandemic's over.
Well, I'm telling you right now, if you put one on in the UK, it'd be sold out in a fucking minute.
Well, we might have to do that.
We're big advocates of mental health on this podcast. In fact, the charity game we had last year, a proportion of the money went to Calm mental health charity. So it's something that's touched all of us here on this podcast. We've all lost people to suicide. We've lost people within the game to suicide. One just last year. So yeah, like mental health, like you say, is right in and amongst something, especially guys in the ice hockey playing sort of age.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
If there's anyone who's listened to you here like now that feels like they want to get in touch with you and for help from somebody within your organization, what's the best way for them to do?
So they can go on my website, but I'm on social media. So I'm on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook. So, send me a message. I'll get back to you like ASAP, because I spend the majority of my life on my phone. So, because there's always somebody out there looking for help, right? So I'm always scanning, my messages, and because it might be that one and only opportunity, right, to save somebody's life, and I want to make sure that I'm there when they reach out and ask for help.
100%. Sorry, I've gone, mate.
Is that?
That's right.
I thought you were saying something. Theo, I wanted to go back to the hockey and touch on the Hall of Fame. Now, for me, I obviously think there's something that should 100% happen, and that's not just because we're sat here talking now. Obviously, you achieved pretty, like you said earlier, you did the clean sweep. You had over a point a game in 1,000 games. Is it something you think about? Is it something you want to happen?
Yeah, of course. I think if you do any kind of comparisons, I should be in there. Obviously, I understand what happened at the end of my career might have some bearing on what happened, but I think I've accomplished more after the game than I actually did during the game, and I think that should hold some merit. I understand that I burned a few bridges along the way, but I think what I've been able to accomplish since I left the game, should even all that stuff out. But let's face it, they only put 4 guys in every year, and there's lots of guys that are deserve to be there, and so I'm just waiting my time, and hopefully at some point before they stick me in the ground, that they
be around to see it, right?
That I'm around to see it. Yeah, for sure.
Boys, do we have anything else to Theo? I think we've pretty much nailed it down. It's been awesome having you on. We've kept you for over an hour and a half, so we appreciate your time. Boys, anything else?
Well, I'll tell you. I have one argument about the Hockey Hall of Fame when people and reporters ask me.
Yes,
is there was 4 best on best tournaments in the 90s. So 91 Canada Cup, the 96 World Cup of Hockey, the 98 Olympics, and the 2002 Olympics. And I played in all 4 of those tournaments. And so for a decade, I was considered one of the 23 best hockey players in all of Canada for a decade. So mic drop.
I think on that note, we should let the mic stay on the floor there. That's nailed it.
Yeah.
Theo, I want to thank you coming on. Honestly, it's been incredible. Thank you for agreeing to come on, taking
my pleasure,
time out
man.
to speak to us.
I
You've
always
achieved
love
everything in the game. Achieved everything in the game.
Talking hockey. I always love talking hockey.
I'm glad that you came over to the UK and we had a chance to see you on these shows, and I know that a lot of Brits are. That's one thing.
Yeah, it was one of the best times I've ever had in my life. I swear to God. And the people of Belfast are some of the greatest people I've ever met in my life, and some of the kindest, most incredible, welcoming people. You know, the 8 months that I spent in Belfast, and the guys that I got to play with, the people that I got to associate with were incredible. And like I said, you know, it's where I got sober. And so, you know, that to me is my greatest accomplishment in life is, you know, is my sobriety, because without my sobriety, I got nothing, you know, and I'm, you know, it was an honor to wear the Belfast jersey and represent, you know, not only the city of Belfast, but the country of Ireland. It was incredible. I loved every day, and it was so much fun.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Really, really appreciate it. And if you do ever decide to do something on these shores, then let us know and we'll help spread the word for you.
Okay, for sure. Well, maybe we can do an event together.
Sounds good. All over that.
Yeah, we can.
100%.
All over that.
We can do a mental health event in London or something. And
Honestly, Theo, I think you could do one in the north and in the south. You could if you were going to make the appearance to come over here.
hey, let's do a little tour.
I think it could happen easily. And we've had players reaching out, like you've said. Obviously, we never mention a name; it's very anonymous. We've had guys reach out for help, and we have a friend, Nick Rothwell, who's in Retribe. He's kind of been similar sort of path and doing similar sort of things, and we try and put players in touch with him. And you know, there's definitely something that could happen there in the future. And Bandy's a huge advocate, so I know it'd mean a lot to him.
Yeah, that would be great. We'd love to.
Cool.
Love to come to the UK again. Love my time there. It was awesome.
Awesome. Well, we'll let you go. Thank you so much.
One of my favorite games was in Basingstoke. I had 8 points that night, goal and 7 assists. So
fuck off. I'm sitting in Basingstoke right now. That's my hometown team.
Oh, okay. Awesome.
Leave it with a Basingstoke getting pumped story. Great.
Yeah. Yeah, it was
There's a
awesome.
few of those.
Yeah, there was a few. Yeah.
What did you think of? Well, if you're going to talk about Basingstoke, if you saw it now, Jesus, what did you think walking into a barn like that? Did it take you back to like your junior days?
Well, it took me back to my youth.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, that whole experience was awesome. I loved going to all the different places. You know, Cardiff was another one. Was a little shitty barn. Yeah. So
Edinburgh.
that was good. Edinburgh, that massive rink, loved it. Bangers and mash you could have bangers and mash sitting in the stands watching the game. Love that.
Cool.
Good stuff.
Well,
All right, gentlemen.
Thank you so much for coming on. Really.
head over to manscaped.com now. Use code 4K20 for 20% off all Manscaped products, including the Lawnmower 3.0.